be your host, along with Stephanie Dean, the inspiration for all that you'll see today. Honoring us by their presence today are Senator Ryan McDougal, who I haven't seen in a moment.
He's running a few minutes late.
His car coming up right now.
Okay. Ryan is a new neighbor of ours by virtue of our acquisition recently of Hampstead, a property right on the border with Hanover. Scott Wyatt, who identifies the missing senator, thank you, Scott, of Virginia House of Delegates. Present also are Thomas Evelyn. Thomas? Okay, Thomas. Modest as always, back in the back. Ron Steers. Ron? Okay, Ron. And John Lockwood. Where's John? There he is, John. All supervisors of New Kent County. We're saddened by the absence of Patricia Page, who's ill. She's been a supporter of this day throughout, and we're very sad she's not here with us. Finally, my old pal Rodney Hathaway, County Administrator of New Kent.
Hey, Rodney.
Rodney is one of the first persons I ever met in this county. I was here for an auction to buy our first piece of land in some crazy auction that the wine company was doing. And I'm sitting in what was something two versions before the Trojan Grill, whatever it was called back in the day. And I walk over, this handsome guy sitting there, and I was getting my hamburger. I said, "Hi," I said, "I'm John." He said, "I'm Rodney." I said, "What do you do here?" He said, "I'm the Assistant County Administrator." I said, "Well, pleased to meet you. I might be around here some more." Today's installation of Harriet is encouraged by the recent establishment of the Tidewater and Big Bend Foundation, dedicated in part to the restoration and exhibition of coastal Virginia's rich history. The foundation's incoming executive director, Brian Green. Brian, where are you, Brian? Brian, come up here, be a little more prompt. Today. You'll be able to observe his work in the years ahead on the Spring Hill, South Garden, Shuttlewood, Mount Sterling, and finally Hampstead buildings, all in New Kent, or in the case of Mount Sterling, on the Charles City boundary. Our experience with Harriet is an extension of earlier efforts involving the funding of New Kent's commemoration of the anniversary of the Green versus the County School Board of New Kent, cooperation with the New Kent Historical Society, including the development of a program for the creation of county historical markers, and support for the African American Heritage Society of New Kent. Naturally, all this is informed by our healthy respect for the principles of equality of races and the even-handed treatment of all Americans. May I now introduce you to Harriet through the voices of those who will speak to us today. Let's begin with Rodney Hathaway, who will talk to us about New Kent County's past, present, and future from the perspective of African Americans. Rodney? Sneak preview.
No problem. Thank you for the warm welcome and for allowing us to share in the unveiling of what I know will be a spectacular statue of Harriet Tubman. I'm also thankful for the opportunity to share a few remarks with you today. Harriet Tubman was a phenomenal woman who I believe that her spirit is captured in a familiar quote that she is said to have made that goes, "If you hear the dogs, keep going. If you see the torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop, keep going. If you want the taste of freedom, keep going. This statement speaks to her perseverance and tenacity to improve the lives and living conditions of others. Harriet Tubman believed that all people should have the right to freedom. Therefore, she did her part to achieve that goal. We are extremely fortunate in New Kent County that we have many examples of African Americans who also gave their talents and efforts to improve the quality of life for others. From James Armistead Lafayette, a spy during the American Revolution who provided critical information on the movements of General Cornwallis, which ultimately led to Cornwallis's surrender in 1781. To Mr. William H. Brisby, a community leader who served and represented New Kent in the Virginia House of Delegates from 1880 to 1882 and served as Justice of the Peace from 1870 to 1910. There was also my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Reverend William Harvey Patterson, who also served in the Virginia House of Delegates and was one of the founding members of Second Liberty Baptist Church, the oldest African-American church in the county, which is still thriving today. Reverend George W. Watkins is the longest tenured pastor at Second Liberty Baptist Church, serving over 40 years, who was also an influential leader and educator in this community who fought for equal education for all of our residents. And there was also Dr. Calvin C. Green, who I and many of us have had the privilege of knowing. Dr. Green is known to many for the landmark Supreme Court case, Green versus New Kent County School Board, which overturned the separate but equal education practices across the country, which led to the full desegregation of our schools. These are just a few examples of historical African American figures in New Kent County that have impacted the lives of many by opening doors and creating opportunities that did not exist prior. From my research of these individuals, including Harriet Tubman, it appears that their overall goal was not only just to improve the lives of African Americans, but it was to create an environment where all races could coexist in harmony and equality. I am extremely proud to stand before you today as an example of someone that has truly benefited from the accomplishments of those historical names that I've mentioned, and many more. I recognize that I stand on their shoulders and bear a greater responsibility to continue their efforts. I will be reminded that every time I look at the statue of Harriet Tubman and reflect on the life she lived and her accomplishments. It is my dream that New Kent be a shining example throughout our state and our nation of what equality and racial harmony looks like. That we as residents focus more on our similarities and common goals and less on our differences. It is my dream that we truly become one county, one community. A couple of years ago, there was a community walk titled One New Kent, which was a great event and community gathering. Unfortunately, through the COVID pandemic, it's been difficult to hold such gatherings and events, but I am hopeful now that the pandemic is hopefully coming to an end. We will see more of these types of events across the county. I know that we have work to do, and I know that we're not perfect, but I am reminded and encouraged by another quote of Harriet Tubman's, which states that every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach the stars and to change the world. Again, I would like to thank John and Stephanie for opening their homes to us today. I would also like to recognize LaVon Allen and Mrs. Tramuel. I believe she's here. Camilla Tramuel. With the African American Historical Society for the great work that they are doing in preserving and presenting the history of this great county. I encourage you to become a member if you have not already. Thank you.
A fine speaker as always. Now we're going to hear some very perceptive commentary from our friend Camilla, who is the inspiration, along with Stephanie, for much of this day-to-day. I'm turning this to the right place for you. And I'm gonna put this right there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Camilla Lewis Tramuel, and I was born here in New Kent County. I am president of the African American Heritage Society. I want to thank John and Stephanie for allowing me to be a participant on this program. Suppose you were a runaway slave. Sorry. Suppose you were a runaway slave. Someone is chasing you. You are running as fast as you can, trying to make it to the river. There are tree limbs hitting you in your face. Your legs and feet are bleeding. You lost your shoes running. You hear the fast and heavy feet of horses and barking dogs getting closer and closer and closer. You feel the crack of the whip on your shoulder. You stagger to the ground from the pain. A man grabs you from behind and starts dragging you while calling you all sorts of dirty names. He ties your hands together with a rope, then ties the rope to the bridle of the horse. He leads the horse in a slow stride back to the plantation. As he gets closer to the house where everyone can see, he turns the horse's stride to a gallop, and your injured feet can't keep the pace, and the horse begins dragging you through the dirt. When you arrive in front of the house, the overseer calls everyone to come up from the fields so that they can watch your punishment. You are untied from the horse, then tied to a whipping post face first. The overseer begins to whip you and you scream in agony. If you are a woman, you receive 10 lashes. If you are a man, you're going to get 25. At the end of your whipping, you are untied and fall to the ground, weeping and writhing in pain. This description of attempted escape, including the consequence if you failed, was customary for runaway slaves. Harriet Tubman, born into slavery in 1820, was so determined to escape and gain her freedom. These brutal beatings did not dissuade her, not when she observed others punished after being caught and brought back, and not even when she was punished after being caught and brought back, which happened more than one time. My name is Harriet Ross Tubman. I was born a slave on the plantation of Anthony Thompson in Dorchester County, Maryland, on the Eastern Shore in 1820. My parents were Benjamin and Henrietta Green Ross. They named me Armatita Rose, but called me Minty for short. In 1845, I married John Tubman. He passed away in 1867. In the 50s, I was tired of being somebody else's property. I was tired of seeing my family dying, tired of seeing my people beaten for no reason. I said to myself, enough. This is not going to keep happening to me. Harriet Ross Tubman risked her life to lead hundreds of slaves, including her own family members, from the plantation system to freedom by using the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses, and relying on the help of other abolitionists in both the North and the South. Even though she did not part the Red Sea, they gave her the nickname of Moses because, like the man in the Bible, she led her people to freedom. Between her work with the Underground Railroad and her military mission, it is believed that she freed as many as 1,000 slaves. Harriet died of pneumonia on March 10, 1913, at the age of 93. She was buried with full military honors in the Fort Hill section in Auburn, New York. While Harriet was not enslaved in this area in New Kent County, she worked as an army nurse right here in the state of Virginia. It is fitting that she rests here at Cumberland, the site of one of the largest Union Army encampments during the Civil War. The sculptor, Gary Lee Price, said he sculpted her on a bench so you could sit beside her and converse with her on topics of bravery and courage. Here she sits with room for us to join her, gazing at the river below, watching the tide and remembering the pain and price of freedom. As I sit with her, I can't help but think of all those people, all those slaves, all those souls that Harriet helped escape to find freedom. I imagine when she died and escaped the pain of this earthly life, she heard the master of all masters say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Okay. Thank you, Camilla. The wind is not my friend today. Stephanie will now inspire us with her rendition of the always moving, amazing Grace. Stephanie?
I hope it's moving. Y'all sing along if you want. Also, there's some program notes here about the lyricist and the history of the tune if you're not familiar.
Finally, let's look at the sculpture that evokes the image and person of today's honoree, the abolitionist, liberator of slaves, and military hero, Harriet Tubman. In order to do this, when we commissioned this sculpture, I don't think I comprehended how much bronze was going to be in it. It's got some serious weight to it. So I'm going to ask Rodney and our volunteer right here, come and join me. They are going to get the heavy end. You ready? Okay. Yes. Here we go. Take it away. Here we go. We see Harriet at the moment facing us, but that's not how she will spend the years ahead. As she looks at us, she also has in view the massive symbol of slavery, the detested manor house of a plantation. Today, of course, given to different purposes. Rather than this view, we desire her to look at this direction, at the river that was her path and the path of many others to freedom, and of course, the site of the entry of the largest Union army to invade Virginia in 1862 under General McClellan. Rodney and
Larry.
Are going to attempt to turn it around so that it faces the river where it will sit forevermore. One more.
Just the ones that sit on 1,000 pounds.
Oh, yeah, forget Scott.
What do we do?
Good job.
They did it.
Needs to go that way just another foot.
I invite you before you leave to read the inscriptions. There are two bronze plaques here and here that describe the sculptor and describe the work. I think you'll find them inspiring. Of course, they'll be here forever. In your program, you'll see a list of names and organizations that helped make today happen. I'd like to recognize Chef Nancy Kincaid and her team.
For everything you eat.
Clyde Thompson, General Manager of Crisscross Properties, and of course, all that you see before you today, and his capable team who worked so hard to prepare the grounds for us today. Clyde. Additionally, I'd like to ask our visionaries, LaVon Allen, Camilla Tramuel, and Pamela Radwani to join us up here. These ladies have been the inspiration for all that you've seen today since we first commissioned Harriet in the summer of 2020. They first came out when Harriet was unloaded from a truck and just a statue on the lawn. They helped us pick the site, put through this event. They've arranged the presence of many of us today, informed the program, and more. Ladies, we thank you. I'd like to invite any of the clergy present today to join us. I don't know who you are, so you'll have to identify yourselves and come up. Do you have anyone?
Anyone want to? Oh, there we go.
There we go. Anybody else? Here we go. Good. We thank you for joining us, and we pledge our fellowship and friendship for all the years that we're here. Thank you very, very much. We're going to now lift up, you'll stay here, you'll know this song. We're now going to close today's ceremony. We direct your attention to the back of your program where you'll find the melody and the lyrics for Lift Every Voice and Sing, a tune adopted in the early 20th century by the NAACP as the African American anthem. Many of you will be familiar with the tune, and if so, please join us for the first stanza. If not, then Stephanie will sing it for you.
We all do. Everybody that knows it, right?
And then the second and third, you have your program. By that time, we've figured out the melody, and you can follow us.
Here we go.
I'm trying to find my.
Oh, he needs his copy. And this is Amy. Thank you, Amy.